Today I'm going to show you the difference between a continental purl stitch and a Russian purl stitch. I'm actually using an existing garter stitch project, but it's a good opportunity. I'm just going to take these stitches out when I'm done. So the Russian purl stitch is the sole difference between Russian style and continental style knitting, and it's a slightly more economical movement. You start all stitches the same way. You stick your needle from back to front. This is for purl. And the Russian purl, you just simply scoop and bring the stitch off this way. I'm going to do that again. There's actually, you see, there's no movement in my left hand at all, and the movement in my right hand is very slight. It makes for an extremely fast technique. You can see here. I'll do a bunch. Oh. Okay, so that's the Russian purl. Very, very quick, swooping, swinging motion, which actually can happen almost entirely in the wrist if you want, or even the forearm. So what's the difference between that and continental? So continental, instead of having the yarn pass under the needle, you have the yarn pass over the needle, and you actually do need to sort of find a way to keep that yarn on the needle as you swing it through the previous stitch. And for that I use my index finger. So I'll do that again. So this is going on top of the needle. Slightly less economical in terms of movement, a little bit more work on the part of the left hand, still very fast, still very small movements, doesn't require a great deal of energy or tension in my hand. Okay, so why would you use one versus the other? Well, the Russian purl and the continental purl actually functionally are different in a very subtle way. It's called stitch mount. And I'm going to see, I was knitting kind of tight, so yeah. Okay, so these here are my Russian purls on this side, and if I pull down on the fabric and hold it, you see that the stitch legs, the legs of the stitch, the front leg on the Russian stitch, the one that's closer to the left, is in front, and the one behind is closer to the right. Whereas in the traditional German continental style, the reverse is true. The back leg is closer to the left, and the front leg is closer to the right. So in other words, the Russian mount is like that, and the continental mount is like that. So Russian, continental. There are two ways in which this might matter. If you're not paying attention and you are sort of you care more, like your movement is automatic and you're not thinking. If you have, let's just say I was going to knit this next stitch, which is I'm knitting into the row below, which was a knit stitch, so it's purl in my direction. You put the needle in between with the leg in front like this. But if the mount was opposite, and I'm going to reset the stitch mount on this so that it would be like a Russian purl. Then instead of knitting into the front leg, behind the front leg, you actually just go insert your needle in between the two legs. So the rule is always, if you don't want to twist your stitches, stick your needle into between the legs, not in front of the front stitch, but just in front of the two legs. To me, it seems intuitive, but some people are like, no, if it's mounted like this, then you must cross your stitches, which is just ridiculous. You basically, I don't know. People are strange. So the other time when it really matters is certain types of decreases require that you might, like knit two things together. And this is a whole lot different. I mean, if you're gonna do that, that looks very different than if the stitch mount is reversed. So I would actually have to reverse the stitch mount on both of these to demonstrate what I'm talking about. So then if you knit two stitches together, you have to kind of go through the back, right? And then it's going to slant differently. So Russian purling is just a different stitch mount. It's a more economical movement though. So if you're having tendinitis, especially in your left index finger, the Russian purl is much easier on your hand. I think it's actually easier for people to learn. So those are two good reasons for using it. And the other thing is that it actually uses slightly less yarn when you're switching between knit stitch and purl stitch in ribbing. So it can eliminate that really large stitch that sometimes happens in double in 2x2 ribbing, where the first knit stitch looks much larger than the second. A Russian purl eliminates that big stitch. The downside is, of course, it kind of borks how you do complicated decreases, but I actually think it's a super useful technique to know. So, and I actually think it's easier to start someone off learning Russian purl and then convert them over to Continental once they're used to the Russian purl. And then you have both options for whenever you want. Hope this was helpful.